So you may or may not have seen my recent video that I did on everything I kind of hate with my L322. And I think it's only fair to balance that out that we do one on everything that I really, really like. And that's what this is. So I just want to caveat by saying there's probably a whole raft of things that I will miss off this list, and this is just everything I really like. I'm going to start off with one big simple thing, and that's road presence. I think until you've driven one of these cars, you can't really understand what people are talking about, but it's just such a nice, and this sounds generic, like place to be and drive. People go on and on about this command position that Range Rovers have and that, you know, JLR themselves like pride and love. But there definitely is something to it. It's the perfect height with this captain's armchair to just watch the world go by, and you can just see everything. And there's just something really, really pleasing about that. I can see every corner of the car, I can see everything around me. There's nothing really out of sight. And even when you're on somewhere like a motorway and you're stuck behind a van, and you know, when you're kind of in a smaller car and dealing with that, it can be a little bit frustrating and a little bit unnerving that you can't see what's in front of you. You rarely have that issue with these, and like I said, it's just quite comforting. And even though it is a big car, I would say it's not really a big car to drive. You know, if you're worried about size of cars and, you know, kind of struggling to, you know, maneuver and, you know, get past people on roads, I think because the visibility is that good, it's never really been a problem for me personally. You know, others may disagree. And I'm not saying it's not a big car generally. You know, if you take this to a normal car park like a Tesco, it is massive. Like, it's only just fits in normal spaces. And even then you're on the white lines on either side. So it is a big car naturally, but not to drive on a road, if that makes any sense whatsoever. In my head, it makes sense. And I'm hoping it does to you too. If it doesn't, shout at me in the comments. So that's road presence. And, you know, that's quite a big one for me of why I really like this car. So I guess linked to how it drives is just how incredibly comfortable and quiet this cabin is. Like, I'm talking to you right now and I honestly feel like I could fall asleep. I'm not tired, I am that comfy. You could happily sit in this seat for hours and hours on end. And to be honest, I've done it. I've driven all the way up to Scotland without stopping. Not trying to boast, feel like I should get a medal for that, but equally, I didn't arrive at my destination with a sore bum, aches, pain, nothing. It was lovely. And like I've said before, there's something to be said about doing long journeys and just arriving totally refreshed, no problems, no pains, nothing. It's just a really, really nice trait that these cars have. And linked to the comfort side is how quiet it is. They go hand in hand. But because these have double glazing, it is just incredibly quiet. You know, you could be in a big city centre, you close this big thick door, and you could be all sorts of external noise, and it just goes, gone, nothing. You know, this has a 4.4 litre TD V8 roaring at the front. Can't even hear it. Nothing. It's amazing. So the comfort and the quiet together as a combination just make this such a nice place to be. And I know that is really generic and really cliche, but there's a reason people keep mentioning it, because it's true. You know, I'm not trying to sound lazy or anything like that, but, you know, I think if people keep saying the same thing over and over again, there's got to be some truth to it. And I can hand on heart say that I guess the size and presence of this car, with its position, the comfort and the quietness, collectively just make this such an amazing car to drive. It's a weird one because I feel like if you took away one of those elements, such as you took away, I guess, you know, the quietness that you have with these cars, and it was just comfy and a nice height, well, that would detract from such a big thing. I think it only works so well because there's almost such a synergy between all the things. And I'm not trying to make it sound too technical and, you know, more than it is, but all those things do add up to make it a really, really good package. So anyway, less about that. So we talked about how comfy it is, how quiet it is, and how good the driving position is. What else is there? Well, one of the things I love about this car, apart from the things I mentioned before, is just how practical it is. And I guess there's two elements to that. One is just how, like, amazingly big the boot is with the rear seats folded down. Like, I don't think I'll ever need to carry anything that big that this thing can accommodate. But it's always nice to know that that is a possibility. You know, I've helped a few friends move, I've helped people take stuff to the tip, etc. Not exciting stuff, but there's always something really nice knowing you kind of have like a Swiss Army knife of a car. You know, obviously this car can't do everything, but it's quite close. And I know people can say like, oh, you can get that with an estate car. You can. Like, estate cars are monumentally practical. No denying that whatsoever. You just don't get everything else with it though, do you? Name me an estate car that is as comfy, quiet, and as nice to drive as this. And as well as practicality from like a sort of hauling stuff about perspective, you've also got the practicality that this car offers in like what it can do and where it can roam. Obviously, most people bought these cars to run around sort of city centres, towns, very suburban orientated tasks, which this can do great and no problem whatsoever. But it's also very comforting to know that if you're ever in a pinch and you're in a snowstorm or you need to get up that horrific muddy hill, if you've got the right tyres on it, it's going to do absolutely fine. And you can rough it up a bit. It's, like I've said before, perfectly at home, you know, outside a really posh restaurant in a city, but equally at home, absolutely caked in mud on a farm. And I really like that. It can't do everything, and it can't do everything perfectly, but it's very much like a jack of all trades, master of none. And, you know, there are other SUVs out there that offer a very similar package, but I've not really found one yet that kind of offers everything I've just spoken about. They do it, but just not as well, I don't think. Like I said though, I am not by any means an absolute Range Rover fanboy. You know, these cars do have issues, they do have problems, they do have quirks. But of everything I've just listed, they do those things very, very well. And, you know, I've obviously only had it 6 months, but those are the things that immediately stand out to me. And I think you'll find it very hard to find another car that does them that well. It's an odd one, really. I mean, I'm interested to know what you guys think about other options to the Range Rover that do Range Rover things that well. I don't know if I'm just being totally, you know, siloed now, and this is all I can sort of see. But yeah, do let me know in the comments if you kind of agree with me or don't, or if I'm just completely rambling on. So I guess that's a brief summary of kind of everything I really like. I guess the bonus one is definitely the tailgate. I've never actually had to use it yet, other than just put some walking boots on. I mean, it's incredibly handy for that, but I just kind of like the fact that I have one. It's really nice to know that if I ever fancy going to a point-to-point, which I will never do, and want to stand on my tailgate and look at some horses, that this car can do that. Yeah, it's definitely a first world problem feature, that one, but equally, it's part of the charm of these cars, and I like it. Every car should have a tailgate. Anyway, I hope you found that fairly useful. Like I said, there's probably 101 other things that people prefer about these cars, but that's my list. So yeah, like it or lump it. So yeah, I hope you found that video useful. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, do give that button a little slap for me. It really does help. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers, guys.